Hey,
Hey,
Barry.
hey, Merle. Happy Friday. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Friday here. Once again, we've had the most beautiful April here in Cleveland I think I ever remember.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
pretty cool.
70 and
Like,
sunny
that's
out
saying a
right now.
lot.
Yeah, it is. Well, our Aprils are terrible. I mean, typically they're just rainy and muddy and all of that. But anyways, I want to say what do I want to say? Welcome to Over 50 starting over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
50% of you anyway. I say that because your hat. Look at you. You're so thin. You're
50% of me.
well. A few months ago, there was
Maybe.
twice of you sitting there.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
60% of me.
yeah. I
Well, that's
wanted to
that's about
talk
right.
about
I
that.
mean, it's been let's see, a total of 76 pounds.
Oh my God, I can't even believe that. Now,
Yeah.
we talked a lot about that on Sunday. We had the best conversation last Sunday. We talked for 2 hours about everything under
Time
the sun.
flies whenever we talk. It didn't
Oh,
seem like
doesn't
two
it?
hours to me.
Not at all. No, you
Yeah.
once again you helped me clean my rental place. It just made me breeze through it. Um, but one thing I stuck in the back of my head, I wanted to talk about a bit because the things I think are I try to remember to bring up things that are very helpful on this podcast, and that is um I said to you, and we talked about this before, that as you went through this dramatic weight loss with Optiva, am I saying?
Optavia, pretty close.
I always say it
And
wrong.
it's I like the name Optavia, Optimum Life Via.
Right. No, I do too, but I especially like the coaching aspect that goes along with
Oh,
it.
that's the best
So,
part.
yeah, you, your family, a handful of you guys have really gone through sustaining weight loss. And the sustaining part is what I want to talk about because I think anybody that has struggled with their weight in this country has experienced the rewarding feeling of making a dramatic weight loss only to see it rebound.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you see it all the
to
time.
go through the compulsive. I mean, the problem with it is, in the first place, is it's a compulsive behavior. And so then you go through the weight loss, and your compulsive behavior wants to tell you how much you deserve to be rewarded by going out to McDonald's or whatever and chowing down. And so I asked you how, and you said that you were worried about leading up to hitting your goal, how you're going to sustain it because it's been
Yes,
this rewarding experience all along the way of
right.
losing it. And so there is,
Yes.
and I think this is about the most important thing we've ever touched on as far as weight loss goes in a country that is suffering from obesity, that needs to cure this thing. How did you find this sustaining factor? How did you not rebound in how did you get out of the compulsive behavior?
Well, I tell you what, I mean, I don't know if I'm out of the woods on this whole thing yet, to
Okay.
be honest. I think this is one of those things where you're constantly in recovery. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
never, this isn't like one and done. It's a battle every day. And there are things that you can do to help make it through that. But the thing that made it easy for me, I'd say easy. This isn't easy. It was really took everything I had to make this happen. But the thing that is making it more sustaining for me is that I like how I feel
Mm.
on this program that I'm on. I don't feel those. There's certain things that were happening in my body that I was dealing with that I thought were normal, and now they're not. They're things that I'm not dealing with anymore.
What do you
And I
mean?
and I feel okay. So first of all, like you eat dinner, and then afterwards you're like, oh God, I'm full.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you then you get on the couch and you're just like Humpty Dumpty. You can't, you know what I mean? And then
Yes,
you
I
fall
do.
asleep, you're out, you know. And
Yeah.
I don't feel the meals that I'm eating right now are very low carb. And I found out that those carbs are the things that make me, they
Mm.
cause inflammation in your
Mhm.
gut and this discomfort and you get tired.
Mm.
And so
I
I
struggle with all that.
Yeah, so
I eat
I
too
don't
many carbs.
I
Yeah.
I have my dinner and I don't feel that feeling at all. I feel good and I feel good throughout the day. You know, with this program, you're eating constantly through the day, but you're not eating things that are going to hurt you. They're very small meals, about 100, 125 calories. And throughout the day, I never get that spike in hunger. And what I found out
Mm.
was that that was low blood sugar that I was dealing with.
Mm.
And I also learned that I am not a happy camper when I have low blood sugar.
I can attest to
You,
that.
yes, you and I as roommates. I didn't know what was happening to me. That's turning
I
into
didn't
the
know what was happening
Tasmanian
to you.
devil.
No, we
Nobody
always
knew.
call it, they call it hangry today. We called it food piss back then. It's like, oh, Merle's food piss. There he goes running through the apartment. Yeah.
Anne Marie
Don't
would
get
say,
in the way.
"Mean Merle, go away."
No, but okay, so that's important. So you discovered
Huge.
that you got low in blood sugar. Is that correct?
Yeah, low blood sugar caused me to be like a different Merle.
Agreed.
And you know, for me, you have to find what works for you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you had been doing the
Intermittent
fasting,
fasting.
intermittent
I still
fasting, right?
am, and I'm going to
A
tell
lot of
you.
people do really well on that.
I want to just mention, because this is important to what you're saying, is that I've kind of found I've certainly plateaued with it. Maybe my body has adjusted to it or something. But here's what I know is that, I wait until 11 o'clock to eat, and it's really hard to get to 11 o'clock. Good part
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
dude, I haven't eaten since 6 or 7 the prior day.
right.
And my body has digested all of that food. So that's a good thing. However, I really do overeat at 11 o'clock. And I mean, I'll be shoving my face full of some
Yeah,
chips. Oh, they're multi-grain chips, or whatever. But while I'm making a sandwich and while I'm microwaving something else, and I overindulge.
yeah,
And
you know,
that's a
I get
problem.
it. Yeah, yeah. And you know, you're trying to make sure that you know that long desert of not eating that you're not you're
Yeah.
not gonna get all hungry.
Yeah.
And anyway, uh there are, once I started down this path, I started to get these rewards that kept me coming back for more. And one of them was, as I started to see my body change, I started to really like that. Like I mean, I've gotten myself into a place where I haven't really been in this kind of shape, maybe ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Ah, well, I don't want to lose that." I think
Mm-hmm.
about the fact that almost a year ago on this show, we had a challenge in May of
Mm-hmm.
2022 to try to lose weight. And I tried and tried. I got on my bicycle and I did 200 miles in the month of
Mm-hmm.
May and I lost 2 pounds. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so frustrating. But now, you know, a year later, I mean, I've accomplished the goal and I feel really good about it. And I don't want to lose that. That's another big motivating factor. So that's why I say it's not one and done.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to do this. And in Optavia, you know, the coaching is key, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
helping me to manage through this process. And there's more to learn. I'm learning more and more. My health coach is helping me. I had a hour-long session with her last night talking about this transition that I'm in of sustaining. So they're going to help you through this. My health coaches are helping me through this so that this is sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
That's and I think this is the hard part, because losing weight is hard, but there's a reward every time you lose weight. There's like a
Oh yeah.
woohoo, I made it, right? But sustaining weight, there's a woohoo, I sustained my weight.
That's it.
Nobody says that.
That's the important part. Now, let
Yeah,
me ask you a couple things. So you are, this is a question. You are on that same meal plan with Optavia?
I'm on a meal plan, but I'm so this is the thing in the transition part. I'm learning about the transition, so I'm
Mm.
not all the way there. So what I've done here, so what we're doing is we call it 5 and 1.
Mm.
They have these 5 snacks throughout the day, and then you have one lean and green. It's like 5 to 7 ounces of protein, and then green, whatever, like broccoli or salad or whatever. So then you switch over to 4 and 2. So you have 4 of those little meals and you have 2 of those lean and green. So I've kind of been dabbling around in that. Now there's this whole transition to getting off of the Optavia food and getting just every, you can still stay on it, but the whole point is to learn about the foods that you're choosing that are going to be good energy foods that you can use for fuel, that aren't going to pack on weight, that's going to make you feel good. And that's the part that I'm into right now, is learning all about that.
Okay. And your brother Scott is like a year ahead of you, correct?
Yes.
So
yes.
where is he in all of, is he still eating Optavia meals, or is he fully transitioned out? Is he sustaining? I haven't talked to him. I gotta call him.
Yeah. So he just like everybody else, kind of, he has moved out of the full-time Optavia thing. He did gain a few pounds. And so as I'm doing this and losing weight, it motivated him. And he's like, wait a second, I think I want to lose about 10 or 15 more pounds. So he went up maybe 10 pounds, but now he's like, okay, so he's back on the program again. And that's the cool thing about this program, is that, hey, if it gets away from you a little bit, you know exactly what to do. It's not like panic time or anything like that.
And
so,
you and I,
so it happens.
On the phone, we were talking, we were kind of comparing this to recovering from alcohol or drug abuse to an extent. There's a parallel there, don't you think?
I think so. Well, one thing about, I know, alcoholism is that you can't get out of it by yourself.
Right.
I mean, people have tried, and it's not a pretty sight. And this is one of those things where having an accountability partner is such a huge thing.
Right.
I send my my weight. I do a weight check every week, and I send that to my 2 health coaches, my brother and Diane. And you know, that's a big deal. Just
accountability.
I wake up on Tuesday morning, I get on the scale, okay, and then I type it in and I send it to them, and they're like, you know, hey, way to go, or hey, you know, keep your head up. But it's really good, because I want to be able to, you know, send something good. And I told Scott, you know, I think this is something I want to do with you for the rest of my life, because just having that accountability, that's we can't minimize that. That's a big deal, Barry.
No. And you know, that's a good segue into something else I wanted to share with everybody here. Merle, did I tell you that I started using a business mentor for the first time in my life?
I think you might have mentioned that, but
this is really
tell
important.
me more.
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard that. You know, I've been listening to podcasts for years and all that, and business and marketing ones too, along with just fun ones. But I would always hear from the most successful people that, oh my God, you have to have a mentorship, a business. And, you know, it's usually the people that are selling mentorship. So I joined my program, and because if you haven't paid big bucks for a mentorship, you don't even know what I'm talking about. Well, my client and friend, Brian Hall, the electrical safety guy, he was telling me how he was paying big bucks for this business mentorship for a while. Then he discovered score.org, SCORE, score.org. And he goes, it's free. And he goes, it's 10 times better than what I was paying for. I'm like, really? I'm like, what? And so it was about 3 weeks ago. I'm like, well, give me the URL, score.org. So I look it up. I sign up immediately. The next day, I was assigned a business coach. He is located in Westlake, Ohio. They're all over the world.
Okay.
There's thousands of them. It's basically successful retired business people. So I talked with him. I'm going to have my 3rd session with him this afternoon.
Wow.
And immediately, the first thing that he said was, one of the first things he said, he goes, you know, he listened to what I've been through and where I want to go and stuff. And he goes, you should join the Beechwood Chamber of Commerce. I'm like, really? And he's, oh yeah. And I thought, well, it didn't take me but a couple minutes to be like, oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, so much money in business is being pushed around in Beechwood. It's a very well-run community that is right next door to Cleveland Heights. Conversely to Cleveland Heights, which is very poorly run in all of those regards.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I just went to my first networking event with the Beechwood Chamber last night. Now,
Yeah.
and that was, and people, look, man, people are barely coming out of the COVID hangover right now.
Isn't that crazy?
So yeah, I'm guessing there's 150 members in that chamber and about 20 showed up to this event. Now it was a
Wow.
beautiful night. Maybe that
Yeah.
has something to do with it.
Okay. Yeah.
But they basically have only started to start doing live events again. And people, we are all got so comfortable sitting on a couch or behind Zoom and not wearing pants. And
Wait, what?
well, if you're doing Zoom, that's kind of the joke. You know, you don't know if I'm wearing pants
Just wanted
right
to make
now,
sure.
you know?
Okay, I am. Just for the audience, I'm wearing
shorts.
wearing pants.
Yes. So it was a great event. A lot of the board members were there, and I got to meet and talk to them in a very personal level because it wasn't too crowded. So it was great in all these
Yeah,
regards.
sounds pretty cool.
But what I will say about that, the whole thing, like the instant rewards I got from this business coaching,
Yeah,
are unbelievable. As soon as first of all, I was like, oh, okay, I got to join yet another thing for $200. Is, you know, I hesitated on that. Yet another $200. It's like every time
that's
I turn
how
around,
much the chamber was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
As soon as I did, the new executive director, who's the nicest guy in the world, he calls me up. We do a Zoom call, and he's like, "Look," he goes, "I understand what you do. What do you think of our website?" Basically, I'm now negotiating to redo their website, which is a big deal because there's so many facets to it.
Yeah, and it's the chamber. I mean, like, there's all those businesses are coming right there.
Yeah.
Hello.
So, instant.
How cool is that? Yeah.
What is the word I'm looking for?
The gratification.
Instant return.
Okay.
I was I was going with gratification, but it's not the right word. Return on investment.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even invest
There's
any
your $200.
money. I'm only investing my time.
Right.
But the most important aspects of this is that I have validation. So when I'm on my own and I'm thinking, okay, here's what I'm going to do to market myself this year or this month or whatever, I got these great ideas. I start implementing. Then if I'm not getting an instant return on my investment,
all the doubts,
I'm doubting myself. I'm losing my focus. I'm starting to go in different directions.
I know what you mean. Yes.
So I have this validation from a very experienced, tried and true professional.
Yes.
And I have accountability.
I love it. That's
dude,
it's a key to everything.
Biggest thing in the world. So
I agree.
So I have my next Zoom call with him in this afternoon, and I had to make sure a couple of days ago that I set some things in motion that we talked about, because I have this Zoom call and I don't want to disappoint him and myself and feel like a fool or a loser or something. Anyways, it's the best thing in the world. I'm telling you, it's free. It's score.org. You can sign up online in minutes and they'll assign a business coach to you. And as my coach says, hey, if you feel the chemistry's not right, we'll get somebody else for you, you know? And I think that's
awesome.
Yeah. And so my buddy,
what's this guy? What does this guy do? I mean, what did he do?
He's retired. Oh God. Yeah. He was in sales forever. Now I forget.
Oh, okay.
Because I've met so many people in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That they're kind of running together here. Yeah. And I'm going to have to ask him again. Yeah.
Well, you're just going back to that. It's so great that these types of people that have been there, done that, can give you like tidbits of knowledge and wisdom that can save you so much money or time or frustration. Yeah. It's really amazing.
And the validation.
Yes.
Be like, oh, I am doing
that. That is a good idea. Keep going down that. Yes. Or no, that isn't a good idea. Don't turn around. Don't
waste your time and money.
Yeah.
Exactly. For sure. So my buddy,
go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, so my buddy Brian has a business coach that, and I told my business coach, his name, Brian's mentor's name. He's like, oh yeah, he's really new in SCORE. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, Brian says that his guy gives him very actionable things to do. Like he's told, so Brian's mentor has told him how to work LinkedIn, like in detail.
That's a big deal.
Step
That
by
is a
step.
big deal.
Yeah. Now my mentor hasn't done that. And so I kept saying to Brian, we talk, he's a friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine. And like, we got to compare notes. We got to talk like once a week or 2 weeks and exchange information. Because I'm not getting that kind of actionable thing like from LinkedIn, but I'm getting good advice. I'm getting the accountability. I'm getting the validation. These things are priceless in and of themselves. I
They really
also
are.
taught my mentor something, and he's really good. He's a humble guy. I stumbled upon Alignable. Alignable.com. Is like LinkedIn, but for small businesses. And they hold a lot of events. I could hold my own event on there. That's kind of why I started checking it out. And on Fridays at between 2 to 3 p.m., they do a business meeting. It's like, what do you call it? Speed dating. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You get on there, there'll be 150 people on there on a Zoom-like call, and they match you up like for 7 minutes, and you meet all these different people. And I've met a lot of nice people, man, all across the country and in Canada, and a couple people from Vancouver, which I've always kind of had a bucket list item. Vancouver, I'd like to check it out.
It's beautiful up there.
Yeah, you did a cruise, the Alaskan cruise, right? Did you?
Yeah.
So you went by it?
We stayed there for a night before we went on the cruise, and it launched right out of downtown Vancouver, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful city, very pristine, I would say, and surrounded by these amazing mountains. And I mean, it's right on the there's a big sound or a bay that it's on.
Right.
Gosh, it is.
And is it kept rather moderate climate-wise because of the currents?
That's what they say. Yeah, it's. I think it's a lot like Seattle there. As far as I think they get there.
Isn't it right in its armpit?
Yeah, it's right there. It's north. It's just north of Seattle, right there. But they get the same kind of weather. Very mild. They do get the rain and everything's very green, really green over there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place, and it seems like really good people. I've met. Everyone I've met from Vancouver is nice.
Well, they're Canadians. They're super nice. I think
I don't know anymore. I'm kind of. You're from Canada? Yikes! I don't know. There's it seems like Canada has changed dramatically since. I thought they were nice. Now they seem like, I don't know. You're from Canada? We got a lot of Canadians over here that come down. In the wintertime, they're all Canadian snowbirds. They're everywhere here. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And they have some really crazy stories about how Canada has changed. And I have one friend, Gary, that he talks about, hey, everything that I'm seeing in Canada, it's coming here. Beware. I mean, these people in Canada are saying all the same thing to us here. Is that beware, they don't have a good they never say anything good about Trudeau, that's for sure.
Wow, because I thought most people just worshipped him, like people that are even slightly on the left and further worship Obama. I thought it was exactly the same.
I mean, but it could be the sampling of people that come down here, because the thing is, they come down here, they're only allowed to be here for a certain amount of time, and then they got to go back, and it's a really strict it's very, very strict, and they long to be here. They're like, oh my god, I have to go back. That's the attitude that I'm getting, but it could just be the sample size I'm getting, and maybe it's just people that come here. I have no idea, but they are very nice.
No, they are very nice. Just a few, maybe 2 months ago, I ran across a YouTube video of this guy. I don't remember who he was, But he did this whole video walking around, I believe it was Toronto, and he's just
Yeah.
talking to the camera. And he's like, look, I've been a big traveler because of being in sales for years and years and years. So I think that I'm very unbiased. I could speak to what I'm going to say in a very unbiased way. But he goes, I'm pretty much done with Canada. And he said, the thing is that the taxes are so high, but you
Yeah.
would, it'd be like I've heard people in New York say, you make sacrifices for the city. And he was talking along those same lines. You make sacrifices to be here because the people are great. We take pride in being great. We love our social justice and our environment and all those things. However, he goes, the weather isn't worth it for the high cost of living, which is getting increasingly unsustainable. And he said, to what we're talking about, he said, the people who have this reputation of being super friendly are not that friendly anymore. He goes, everyone's frustrated.
Yes.
And yeah, so it's really changing. And it's kind of like when you look at the US, you know, we're going to make this natural segue, because you and I talked about, we are going to, and just laying the foundation here, folks, we are going to, Merle and I assembled our top 10 list on the ways to change America to save it. However, we're going to say that we don't know what each other put on their list. My guess is 8 out of the 10 will overlap.
I wondered that too. I was like, I bet you Barry's writing this down right now.
Right. But we're both going to have a couple zingers, I think, that we're going to have to,
I wonder.
you know, I wonder too. So where was I on that? Oh, so what I was saying is, so when we look at the US and we see our major cities, every one of our major cities is, and this is going to be debatable. Some people disagree with it. It seems to me all of our major cities are run by far leftists today, and they're all suffering consequences to that coming through the defund the police experiment, which I think is evidently has been a disaster, as crime has risen all over the place here. And our homelessness is a gigantic problem. Our taxes, or the taxation, is a big problem. So what I was saying is, the bigger the city gets and the more liberal it gets, the bigger. So you go to Chicago, you go to New York, Chicago, California, and is like the big example. They always say it's whatever starts in California will then permeate through the US. That's
that's a threat.
And then what I mean is, Canada seems like the next stage after that as an example of what happens.
Yeah.
So with that, let's segue into our top 10. And I already set the basis of making that sound so partisan, and I hate that. Because at the end of the day, I think when you follow things far enough up the chain there, through our politics and all that, I think you get deep state, and they laugh about politics. I mean, about partisanship, because I think they're all in it all together.
I think you're right about that. I think they're laughing, and they
love
together.
The division.
Yeah.
Love the division.
Yeah, it seems like that to me. One of the times for me that seemed apparent was right before the Russians had invaded Ukraine, or maybe it was shortly after. It was during the president, the State of the Union address last year, and the Republicans and Democrats were singing "Kumbaya," and they were all wearing Ukraine flags on their lapels. And to me, that's a huge red flag to see that. It's like, uh-oh. But like, grab your wallets. And that's really what happened. You look at the billions and billions and billions of unaccountable dollars that we've sent over there. And then we find out that these guys have been lying to us this whole time because of these leaks that have happened. And we find out that we actually have soldiers over there. That is really borderline war crime.
I was going to say the same. Don't you think that's an act of war, right there?
It is an act of war. It's as if, if you don't declare war and yet you engage in war, it's sort of like Pearl Harbor. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and did not declare war, that's a war crime right there.
Yeah.
And so now they've lied to us, and it's all on our tax dollars. So now we're guilty of war crimes. And that's a sick thing. That's a
You
sick.
think we're a fallen state?
It feels like it.
It feels like it to me.
It feels like we're speeding towards being Venezuela is what it feels like to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big thing to say. I guess that's kind of what spurred our conversation on Sunday to do this. How do you want to do this? Do you want to share like number one?
Well, I wondered if my number one, and I didn't rank mine in order.
I didn't rank mine in order.
Certainly, I had the one that came to my mind first. I suspect that you might have had the same one, but mine is term limits.
Oh, dude, I don't have that on my list.
I love that.
I do too.
This whole thing is that our House of Representatives is the most important body for our own voices to be heard in the federal government, because these people have districts. Like the district for me it's very small. I could drive over to my congressman or congresswoman's house from here. So he or she has to live in my neighborhood and represent me. And if we have people in there that actually are truly there to represent the voice of the constituents, me, then I can be heard. But today, what's happened, because there are no term limits for Congress, so these people are just on automatic pilot, and they've got investors and they've got lobbyists, and a lot of these people are multimillionaires, and they are not making that kind of salary to be multimillionaires. So they've fleeced the country. And it's all about these special interest groups and not about me anymore. And now these things are happening where we don't have any measure of control over it any longer. It seems like our federal representatives are beholden to special interest groups, whoever's got the most money, these big businesses, pharma. The list goes on and on. But
Right.
we are at the bottom of the list. And because these guys get elected every 2 years, it forces them to have to listen to the constituents and bring those things to a head in the House of Congress. This is just not happening anymore. And I think term limits will make it so that it attracts people that are statesmen, that care about the community, and not so much politicians that are in it for themselves.
You know, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're much more astute about the history of politics and things like that. But didn't it seem like our foundation of this country was meant to be almost like serving jury duty? Like, look, dude, you're going to represent us for 2 years. So get off your farm, do what you got to do to put it on hold for 2 years, but you are going to Washington to represent us. Wasn't that how it originated?
And it's a very simple, yes. And I would say that it was more of a person who was making a sacrifice because they love their country and they love their citizens, and they know they're not going to be making any real money or anything doing this, but this is something that they felt that they would do. And they never envisioned people doing this as a lifetime, because really back then the mortality rate was so much lower that you wouldn't be in Congress for 50 years like our current president was in Congress for 50 years before he became the president. That never happened. They never even conceived of that. So yeah, you're exactly right. That was the thing, is it's duty to country.
Right. Okay. Let me go to my number one. I know you have this on your list. It's a twofold. It is institute a fair tax system and eliminate the IRS. Those
are my number two. both those things I had them right there.
We totally agree on that.
Yes.
Just simplify everything. No loopholes, no nothing. The more you buy, the more taxes that you pay just as a result.
Yeah.
So in my mind, first of all, there's the debate over how much the rich are paying or not. Look, to me, the middle class is getting fleeced. That's all I know.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and the welfare system is, in my opinion, out of control, and the amount of what they're doing with our taxes is out of control. But what I know is it's small business owners. When I was much younger, when I first went into business for myself 30 years ago, we were heralded. We were very appreciated. Now we're looked upon as like, I don't know, like just taken advantage of, absolutely taken advantage of, and as if we're this endless resource. And I mean,
Yes,
really, the whole entire middle class is treated like it's this endless resource that has limitless cash that we could put in anywhere. We now talk about trillions of dollars like it's nothing. I mean, 10 years ago, if we said a billion, it was a big deal. Now we
that's
talk in
right.
terms of trillions, and
That's exactly
I'm
right.
sure that it's intentional to desensitize us to what's going on. But if you got anything more to say about the fair tax system, you go. It's on your list too at number 2. So
Yeah. So I look at this is the sure way to eliminate a ton of corruption that's happening here
yeah,
in our country right now. As you mentioned, the rich are not paying, and the poor aren't paying either. I mean,
right,
it's like when you take a look at this lopsided thing, it seems like you're exactly right. The middle class gets screwed every time. All of these schemes that the government has had
it's
to
schemes.
fleece the rich always ends up screwing the middle class.
Oh yeah,
That's
oh yeah,
really what happens. I mean,
yeah.
did you know that uh, when the IRS was being construed and being sold to the public, it was being sold as a package to fleece the rich. They're
Oh,
not paying their fair share, and we're going to get those rich people. That's how they passed it. That's how they made it happen. And look what happened. The
and
middle
that's
class.
exactly like that. They sold how
It's a
many
bill of
agents did
goods.
they just put on? How many agents?
Oh, like
180,000?
80,000. Yeah,
Was it
yeah. It was
80,000?
80,000.
And it
Yeah.
was sold the exact same way.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
how
we're gonna
there's
go
not that
after the
many
rich.
billion. You need
Yeah,
80,000 accountants
yeah,
with guns to go after billionaires.
right,
I
right,
could just see Bill Gates like running away from these in the Revenge of the Nerds. I mean,
right.
it's just, and these guys are shooting everywhere because they don't know how to shoot, and they think people are falling out of windows.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
the next thing they want to try to pass is that any transaction that you make over $600 is going to be reported to the government. Oh, really? Is that what you needed that extra 80,000 IRS agents for?
well, isn't that something? Because now the whole thing, we've got this centralized cryptocurrency coming here in America this summer. It's happening,
It
and
is.
all of the Western countries of the world they've got their own crypto that's happening now. So and they're talking about centralizing the banks and everything, World Bank centralizing everything. So that whole pipe dream of, hey, let's follow your $600 or more. No, they want to follow every penny. They want to track every penny. And much like, what's the danger of that? Well, the danger is exactly what we saw in Canada, right?
Yeah,
We
where
don't,
they
we,
seize your bank accounts,
There
right?
it is. We don't like you know what, Barry? You've been eating way too much meat. We're gonna penalize you. We're gonna cut your meat intake by
Yeah.
50%. And they'll be able to do that. They just press a button, or actually they'll just use AI to do it.
Yes.
Um,
Oh
and
boy,
so
there's a discussion. I want to plug this real quick. Next week, I'm going to have my buddy Mark Tennant on again, who subbed for you about 2 years ago, and he's a big tech guy, really engineering type of brain, and he's always on the cusp of everything that's going on with AI, crypto, all of that stuff. We're going to talk about how AI is influencing our lives, and from an over 50 starting over perspective, because it's influencing our everything creative, writing. We're going to talk primarily about that, but he wants to introduce how people of our age, our generation, can actually use it to take a next step instead of being afraid of it and shying away from it. You could dive right in if you have that interest. But
no,
I
that's
just
going to
wanted
be interesting.
Dude, it's really, really interesting. I've been doing my own homework.
Me
It
too.
is, I will be on an upcoming website. I'm going to be using AI chat GPT to assist me with writing the content for this website, but I'm going to highly customize it. But it's also influencing design. So illustrations, photography,
My
and
daughter was talking
music.
about this and how
Yes.
she is so threatened by this because, she's a graphic design artist,
Yeah.
and this whole thing where people can just generate, it's generative, right?
Hmm.
That's what
Hmm.
the G in GPT stands for. It generates these things so that
Yeah.
you don't have to anymore, and this is threatening her job, and
Yes.
it's threatening the whole industry, and it goes right back to what you and I were talking about in the last show about how AI is going to take all of our jobs away. What is there going to be a need for us for? And
In the
therein
meantime.
lies the whole thing is
Mhm.
this battle between man and machine, is that if AI decides they don't need you because the whole job is to replace you,
Mhm.
man, we're back into the Terminator movie.
Man, no one has a good answer to where that's going to go and how it's going to go. It's
No.
it's nothing but we don't have the tools to think about it yet. I will say this, that someone told me a podcast I listened to, probably Lex Friedman. He's a robotic engineer. He's got a terrific podcast, very, very popular podcast. I think it was him that said he's a coder. And he said that coders are using ChatGPT to develop code at about 10 times the pace. So he
Wow.
goes, it's not, so don't be so threatened by it. We're just 10 times better because of it. You might want to say, we had the same concern when we came out with calculators
It's
and how,
true.
yeah, and how that was going to take over the world. So there's a bit of that. Now, I really don't know. We will just see how it goes. I want to back up for a minute, Merle, because when we started talking
Yeah,
about
we
the
we could
fair
go down
tax
a big
system,
rabbit hole right there. Yep.
it could
Yep.
take over the show from there.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
when we talked about the
Because
fair
that's
tax,
what AI does.
it
It
does,
just
it
takes
does.
over.
When we talk about the fair tax system, we never defined it. So would you
Oh,
define
yeah,
it
right,
as
right. Yeah. I
eliminating
mean,
all
look,
taxes except for a sales tax? That's it.
I think that that's the way to go. I mean, that's what I have in mind as a flat tax system. It's Herman Cain with 999. I think he was on to something right there.
You totally lost me. What's Herman Cain
Oh,
999?
Herman Cain ran for president, and he was a Republican. He just passed away
Hmm.
recently, and his whole platform was the flat tax, and it was 9% tax, and there was three nines there, and he was a
Oh,
999, and it's
oh,
just make it really easy, get rid of the IRS, get
yes,
rid of all
yes.
that stuff. Everybody pays their fair share. It's all based on consumption.
All loopholes are gone.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know our whole country ran like that before the 19 teens, and we did just fine. And then when we implemented this, all the corruption and
Yep, yep.
and we also implemented the bureaucracy at the same time. And it changed the whole country completely. It put us on this crazy trajectory that we're on right now, which brings up
Crazy.
my the third one that I have, which
What?
is
What?
eliminate all bureaucracies. And
How
I
do you
think,
do that? I
okay,
mean,
well, here's how you do it.
it's
I got
bureaucracy
a
is like a
plan.
concept. Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, that because we didn't have our first off, they're anti-constitutional. We have in our first article of our Constitution that all laws are to be made through the legislature, and it is not to be delegated to any other body. And yet, that's exactly regulations that come out of bureaucracies are just another word for laws. And
Hmm.
so they've delegated that authority. That's against the Constitution.
Mm.
And so so you can't just say, okay, no more bureaucracies. So here's how we do this is that every 2 years, because Congress is elected every 2 years, each of these, and we've had to have it on a rotating system, each of these bureaucracies are going to have to come to Congress, and they're going to have to make a case for why they need to be, why they're of value to the American taxpayers. And if they're of value, Congress will assign their budget. Now, if they are low on value, they can slash their budget or they can cut their budget completely. But it needs to be in Congress because, again, those people are directly accountable to me and you. So now finally, I will have a word into what happens in these bureaucracies. Today, the bureaucracies have unlimited funding and they're nameless people. So they're completely unaccountable,
Right.
And they can do whatever agenda they want to do. And they're completely fouling up our American life and our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They're stealing it from us.
Yes. No, totally.
So that would be my plan.
Okay. That is similar. I'm going to skip my 3. I'll come back to my 3 because yours is similar to my 4. I think in a way it's related.
I would like to hear that.
All right. I mentioned this on the podcast before. I think this is a rather radical idea, but I'm speaking to the educational system and healthcare at the same time.
I'm excited.
Privatize them and have them take 100 of the best private companies. They will receive the contracts and they will always be evaluated. And the most funding on a scale will go to the best performing ones. Total capitalism and socialism combined, because you have 100 of them competing. Okay. But where's the socialism in it? I don't know. But I guess it's just trying to take capitalism and give it a lot of accountability. So taking the competition of capital. Look, man, first of all, if there's 2 institutions we need to turn around now, it's our educational system. We need to rescue that yesterday. But our healthcare is archaic. Our healthcare here in the United States, that's a damn shame because everybody
is.
Yeah, everybody should have equal health care, and that should be a priority number 1. It just shouldn't be a screwed up industry. So I think whether talking about the healthcare industry or let's talk about the healthcare industry. Let's say that we just take the top performing 100 institutions in the healthcare industry and say, we're going to fund you guys. You guys all get X amount of dollars, and then they are just rated maybe biannually. And no, they're rated constantly. There's a constant, you could go on the website and see the charts moving at all times. Now, of course, you need people smarter than me that put in, well, how are they rated? What are the terms that they're rated by? Well, efficiency and performance and all these things. Now, I know that when we talk, there's a danger there. When we talk about the educational industry, you could say, well, the educational system's already like that. So what do? They started dumbing down the test scores so that they could pass everybody so that they got more funding. Okay, that has been happening for years in our public school system.
Yep.
So we need to circumvent that. We need to just figure out.
I agree with you.
I don't have everything answered, but I'm just saying that if we take
it needs to be fixed, right?
Yeah.
And that is so funny, Barry, because that was my next one too. And I have it right here. And I wrote these on my phone instead of putting I started putting it on. Remember, we have that online thing that we can share.
Mine's
and
there,
I started writing it on there, and I'm like, no, Barry, he's gonna see my notes. So
I never look at yours because I don't want to.
I like that. I like that. But I did want to keep it. I wanted to keep it concealed in every way because I didn't. I wanted because this is cool because I had a feeling we would come up with very similar things.
Oh yeah, but, for sure.
But mine was to really unlink our school systems from the federal government.
Yes, privatize them.
And I wasn't necessarily saying privatize, and I'll tell you why. I think it should be.
Mine's not totally unlinked. I'm saying that they're funded, but through different companies that compete.
Well, okay. So here's my idea. Very similar to what yours is, but I think we need to go back to state and local funding of schools and keeping the federal government out of it. Because here's what I see happening when the federal government is involved is that they don't have it's like the federal government doesn't live in your backyard, right? But the local government does. It is your backyard, and so is the state government. And so the state and local government are way more concerned with your productivity
Yeah,
than the federal government is.
right.
And the state actually has very unique needs. Like here in Arizona, mining for precious metals is huge business.
Hmm.
So in
I
Arizona,
didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Oh,
The tax dollars that come into Arizona, if this was all state funded, local funded, then our schools would have a curriculum that would help our people to be more prone to be more creative on that end. So when they come out, they can produce more for the state because they have maybe the science or the technology that's specific to what we need here in this state to make our state more sustainable, make it more profitable, make it a better place to live. The federal government doesn't necessarily have those kinds of
for sure.
concerns. And they're really more looking at things on a global basis. So they're going to be more concerned with liberal arts, and
Yeah.
a lot of this, a lot of it is going to be around, hey, we've got this social movement that's happening, and
Right.
let's inject money into this so that
Yeah. Waste it. They'll waste
think,
it.
yeah, and I think there's literally billions of our tax dollars that are just blown away. And
Oh, yeah.
then in what we've done is we've invested in people to get educations that really don't produce, and the only jobs that they're actually fit for when they come out are government jobs.
That's right.
And so what happens is, well, we need to find more jobs, and then the president's bragging, we've created 1 million more jobs. Well, they were all government jobs that I'm paying for with my taxes now. So I think that we need to, I agree with you, we got to change the educational system. But I think it wasn't until the late 1970s under the Carter administration that we came up with the Department of Education. And so all the way up until that time, Barry, the federal government wasn't involved in at least in our local schools, until that time. And think about how things changed right at that time. Remember gym class? And you had the boys and the girls were separated, and the boys were doing things like wrestling and boxing, and I have no idea what the girls were doing, but I remember going to gym class, and it was rough, man. You had to freaking
It's the
wrestle some
best,
guy down
though.
to the ground. I loved it. It was just like
Everybody
pure
loved him.
competition. We
Yeah.
needed that as boys. We needed that, but then they made it co-ed.
Yep.
And that was because the federal government got involved in this whole thing.
Okay, but let me ask you this. But what about a state like West Virginia, maybe Arkansas or something like that, that they would probably have very poor school systems because they just don't have the funding?
This is the thing that we need to have the states competing with each other. That's the way that I see it, is that if you bring the federal government to, daddy warbucks to infuse money, then the states don't have any incentive to change things in the state to make it better for the citizens. And so I see that as, yes, that's a problem. However, we've used a crutch to remedy that is an eternal crutch. You can never get off the crutch. And
I understand what you mean.
I think there's some hard things that would be a result, but in the end, it would be so much better for the country instead of what we have going on right now. It's like we're never going to take the training wheels off.
You got a point. There's a parallel. It's kind of like the idea, if we go back to the conversation about AI taking all the sustainable jobs away, and you can only pretty much employ 25% of the population. So what do you do then? And you talk about, well, you need a stipend, a bare minimum of a stipend for everybody, and then everybody else can just go from there. And there's been the experiments. I don't know if you want to say experiments, but it seems to show that people of ill means will just take their stipend and bi-weekly or whatever and go on a bender and spend it on drugs and alcohol, bad food, this, that, or the other. And so I'm trying to draw the comparison. So then if we take that idea and we talk about the educational system and leave it to the states and let the states fend for themselves, now they're competing with each other. And well, some are going to fall to the wayside. And
it could be. It could be.
I don't know.
Well, and this is the whole thing about the whole conception of the states and the federal government is that the states, the reason you have states is because you want to have localized government, and each state has its own flavor. And when you start to have a very strong centralized government, then you take that all away. For example, I was having big time problems in California because of the government there and their rules and how they look at things. So I'm in America. I can move to Arizona where they think differently. And this is exactly what I'm saying, is that this idea of the federal government taking over these things, and they really have, they're controlling them to our own detriment. They're forcing us to have curriculum that does not produce anything that's tangibly good for our state. In many ways, we can cut that revenue, use it for other things, and really let the states handle what they know they need to do. It's just like my own house. I know better how to fix my own house and what's going to be most efficient in my house than the guy that lives in another state or another country, who he doesn't care about that like I care about it. And so this ownership idea is what causes things to get better. It's like you're bringing up this stipend idea, but we've seen this concept, and it's in the public housing. And when you don't own something, you don't care about it anymore, and you don't take care of it. And that's when you get a can of spray paint and paint your own wall with it, put graffiti on your own wall, right? Because you don't care about it. But when you work for it, and now you own it, you're going to take care of it. It's like my motorcycle, man. And if somebody gave it to me, I wouldn't care about it. But man, I really worked hard for that. I'm out there all the time. There's a speck on there,
Right.
If you want to beautify America, make people accountable for it. Make it easier for us to own things, right?
Yeah.
And when we own it, we take care of it and we make it. It's like that old saying in school: well, you put your feet on the desk at home. Oh no, well you then don't do it here at school. But we just take things for granted when we don't own them. Anyhow, it could go on and on.
I agree. As you were talking, I'm sorry I had to start writing because I came up with a number 11. That's very important. But we'll get back to that. I'm going to back up to my number 3 because, wage war on the military-industrial complex.
Oh, I love that. I don't have that on mine.
You don't? I'm shocked.
No. I couldn't. There's so many things we could do. It's just that was the thing, Barry. It was like, okay, keep it to 10, but I mean, this could go on and on and on. And
but maybe come on, man.
This is a huge
industrial complex is a gigantic one because they're just draining the middle class of all of our money, not only our money, but our next generation and the generation after that, their money. So I'm just saying we require bidding and approval on all military spending.
I agree. And I had something similar in my notes, and then I was like, no, keep it down to 10. So I don't know why I took it.
I have 11 now.
Yeah. So, but
I could get rid of one.
Mine goes along with that, which is force our Congress to declare war when we engage people in battle. And look, the last time we declared war was World War II.
Is that right?
Yeah,
what about all the other wars, like Korean and Vietnam?
We never declared war on Korea, and as a matter of fact, the Korean War never actually ended. We have an armistice. We never had a treaty. It could technically say that that's an ongoing war. We never declared war on Vietnam. We never declared war on Iraq.
No one talks
Never.
about Yemen ever.
We never,
The
we
ongoing
never,
things going on
yeah,
there,
we
atrocities.
never declared war on Afghanistan. Okay, so when you don't declare war,
Huh.
then you don't have Congress people, which that's constitutionally, that's who declares war, is our House of Congress, and so now we have nobody that's accountable for these wars.
Yeah, we look
And
terrible across the world. We have spent our whole lives thinking that we look like Superman throughout the world, truth, justice, and the American way. And I don't believe that we look like that at all.
I don't believe that either. And here's the other thing too, is and I know that these Congress people have huge investments in companies like Lockheed Martin.
Yep.
And they're making this is how they're making this,
and they do it without bidding. They just get
money
granted these contracts.
And of course they're making the congressperson is making tons of money on, and without having to be accountable for being on the record or his constituents who vote for him or her to say, wait a second, you voted for this war and look what's happened. We're going to vote you out and put somebody else in. Well, now they can just, they don't have to be accountable for it. None of them have been accountable for any of these wars. And I think that's, look, people are dying over there and no one's accountable for it. And we're spending our tax dollars to kill people. And no one's accountable. This is the same problem with our bureaucracy. No accountability there. And accountability, as we started the show out with our weight, accountability is everything. Now we need to add accountability to this. It's just common sense.
Agreed. I had a thought that I didn't talk about my number 2, and I realized it's redundant, so I can take my number 11 and put it in my number 2. My number 2 was cut taxes on the middle class by 75%. But if we do the fair tax system, that'll happen.
That'll happen. I wanted to make a point here, and that is that the middle class is an invention of the United States. There was no middle class before that.
That's true.
There was the elite class and then the serfs.
And now we want to go back to that with the bourgeoisie and the proletariats.
Look at the attack on the middle class. And I go back to the early 1900s with the advent of the Federal Reserve Bank, the IRS. I have another one, which is to bring back the ability for the states to appoint their senators as opposed to senators being elected. That also happened right around that same time with the IRS. Really, our country completely changed at that time, and it's really my suspicion that really America was really stolen from us at that point. And I want to get our constitutional government back, where it's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this is it. I mean, this has to happen for us to really be able to control our country again.
Agreed.
Let me just go back.
Go ahead.
Senators are the most they're our most prestigious legislatures. They're the overseers of our legislature. They get to be in office for a 6-year term, as compared to a congressperson who gets a 2-year term. So the laws generally bubble up through Congress and go to or through the House and go to the Senate. And these people, like, they're sort of like the old eagles, that they look at it and they're very wise, and this is why we put them there. But they're from the state. When they were from the state, again, local government, everything, they want to take care of this. If they're appointed by the state, then everything they do, especially when it comes to their fiduciary responsibility, is going to be very measured and conservative, so to protect the people. But when it moved over to the people elect them, then it's, hey, we're going to give you free money, so elect me. That's the difference. Okay. And now when the House bubbles up stuff where it's going to give away free stuff so that their constituents can get something free, well, they're all in on it, right? But you needed to have that hey, here comes the thing from the people, but here comes the thing from the state to to really even out things and make it so that it's logical for everybody. But that went away, and then it became this runaway freight train of debt. And we've never been able to come back for over 100 years on this. I say we bring back senators being appointed by the state and no longer being elected.
That's a good argument. I like it. All right. I'm going to give you my new number 2. It was my number 11. I moved into my number 2 because I said my number 2 was reduce taxes on the middle class by 75%, but that would be taken care of with the fair tax system or free tax system. There's a misnomer there with one of those, but the flat tax system. Okay,
all
so
the spending that the government is doing, as to my point, is destroying the middle class. That's what I'm talking about. Is that the middle class is what actually sustains all our freedoms here in this country.
Without question.
You destroy the middle class, you destroy America, you destroy our freedoms, you destroy freedom for the entire world. And there seems to be an orchestrated force and there always has been, to destroy that. And this is what we're trying to protect here.
All right. Well, you just made me want to skip down to number 7.
Do it.
Because it goes in line with what you're saying. I think monopolies, our policies, our constitutional governance on monopolies. What happened to that? I mean, remember when Ohio Bell got broken up?
I can't even believe you have this on your list. I love this because I have the same thing.
What happened? And I'm talking, you got BlackRock. I mean, go to the very top, BlackRock, Vanguard, CBS, Disney, places like that. But it goes into Facebook, Apple, and all these
high-tech companies that are taking advantage of us. Exactly.
And that was the entire intention behind the whole monopoly laws. So what happened?
Antitrust laws. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
What on earth happened? And this is where most of our corruption takes place.
That's exactly right. And Congress is supposed to be all over that. And what happened? The lobbyists.
Yes, agreed.
That's what's going on.
Now, here's a tricky one. When you talk about lobbying, and I remember that from government classes growing up, is lobbyists it became legal and necessary because we had politicians running our companies, so to speak, creating laws for companies. And they didn't know. Their politicians are terrible people. We all know that. They needed lobbyists in order to inject, but it got out of control.
Yes.
It got way out of control. The last statistic that I remember is something like, my God, I think there's 50 lobbyists in DC for every healthcare, or 50 healthcare lobbyists for every politician in DC.
I don't doubt that.
Right.
I mean, the whole place is infested with lawyers and lobbyists.
I mean,
it is a trap. I mean, lawyers are never my favorite, and I don't know any lobbyists personally, but I don't know that I would want to live in Washington, D.C.
No, I wouldn't. My friend Susan LeConte and I had a conversation about that recently because she got offered a lot of money to I don't want to divulge anything I shouldn't, but she would have to move to DC. Yeah. And we both agree. I thought she would kind of like it. She's like, no way.
Inside that beltway, man. I don't even want to know what's going on over there. So many crazy things that need to be dug up, but yeah, I mean, this whole monopoly thing, I thought about AT&T. My dad worked for AT&T during the divestiture, and that was a big, big deal. But I mean, the fact is that we've got all these companies now that have locked out any kind of competition. There's no possible way that these other companies can grow up. And yet these companies, a lot of them are heavily linked to our ruling class. And they've used these companies. I really believe that what we're into here in the United States is fascism. And fascism is controlling our country through businesses. That's really what's happened. And it has happened. And part of it is because of the lobbying. And I think if we could just, enforce the laws of, you're not supposed to bribe these politicians, but that's happening all the time. And nobody's following that. The other thing too is that these people in Congress can buy stocks when they have insider information. That's actually stealing money from us.
That's another way to screw it.
Right.
Everybody else.
I mean, it's not just free money. Oh, I just happen to know. You're bending the system, and that revenue isn't supposed to be coming to you that way because you cheated. And it's supposed to be going to people that earned it fairly. So, gosh, what are we talking about even?
We were talking about monopolies, and
that's right.
You're segueing to a really good one, in my opinion. So I'm talking all the way up to these big giant investment firms like BlackRock, Vanguard.
Yes.
There's that Street one. I always forget the name.
State Street. Yep.
State Street. You break those up, and you know what you can couple this with is with my number 6, clearing up the media, because those are the companies that own the media. And
I got that too.
I knew you would have that one. Where does that rank on your list? I know we don't have that rank.
It wasn't prioritized, but it was the last thing that I had, which was a deep investigation into the media owners, and again breaking up these monopolies and making it fair for all voices to be heard, because we're hearing the fringes, and that's it. We hear the far right and the far left, and all of us in the middle,
and they're owned by the same companies. Because they want you divided.
That's it. That's exactly it. And
they control the narrative.
They're playing us. Yeah.
We talked about this too the other day, last Sunday. But they stole the election in the last election, and that's such a hot point for everybody because Trump was there. I don't care who it was. What I know is that the Twitter files made it very clear that the media was told by the FBI, the CIA, the CSA, there was a lot of interference, social media, regular media. Hey, that Hunter Biden stuff is Russian disinformation. Do not publish anything about that.
Sick.
Sick. It's unconstitutional. It's treasonous. It's absolutely treasonous. And no one's held accountable.
How many people were involved in this whole thing? I mean, it was crazy. God. It's just come out now that the Biden administration's who is it? It's the guy that's Blinken. Blinken had called the assistant deputy CIA director during this whole New York Post thing and said, hey, this sounds a lot like Russian disinformation. You should look into that. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And that guy just testified that that's what happened yesterday.
Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen.
What could happen? I mean, but that's direct election interference.
It's
right
fraud.
there.
It's election fraud.
In the highest degree.
Yes.
And it smacks you in the face, but yet it wasn't Trump, so who cares?
Right. That's exactly right. And everything gets a pass when Trump's involved. That's weird. It is weird.
It's like what happened to everybody's brain? Like,
you got hijacked
this guy that much that you're gonna anyway. Wow.
No, okay. So to the media, I also said, I think we need a clear algorithm that gives an accurate rating of, in quotes, journalistic integrity. And so that means that commentary can't be described as news. So you got these newscasters, whether it's Fox or CNN, MSNBC, that are up there getting all crazy with their political opinions. It's kind of like putting the label on a cigarette package. You're going to have to define that is not news, it's entertainment. And then define what is truly news, and that is journalistic integrity. And like I said about the educational system and healthcare system, that there should be a website where you can check these 100. I said 100 companies should be rated at all times on these different scales, algorithms, how well they're doing and where they're deficits. I think the same should be done with journalistic integrity, that at all times you could go on, you can look up anyone that calls themselves a journalist. First of all, you have to earn the rating, and then you can go online and see where they fall on the scale of nonpartisanship and different things like that. So we get real news back. Walter Cronkite's back is what I mean. And there's a lot of Matt Taibbi's and stuff out there that would be like, dude, implement that today because I've earned that.
Did you hear
you
they're
know?
going after him now?
Yes, they're always going after him
He
because
said
he has journalistic integrity.
well, here's what it is during his testimony, he was saying that, CISA was involved with the with Twitter and telling them what to say. Well, CISA is a cyber security apparatus for the United States government, and what he meant to say was CIS, which is the Cyber International. I don't know what it is, which is a private organization. Now the ranking member, who is a Democrat, has sent a letter to Matt Taibbi saying that he lied under oath. It was a mistake.
God.
By the way, he corrected it, that he lied under oath, and that she wants him to explain why he lied, and that lying to Congress, this is in a letter that he got yesterday, lying to Congress is punishable by up to 5 years in prison.
Oh my God.
Threatening Matt Taibbi, the Democrats are, with 5 years in prison because he forgot he added an A at the end of CIS. That's it. You're going to jail for 5 years, buddy.
Because he was one of the chosen few that was to divulge the Twitter files, and they want to discredit all of that. And because it was just so eye-opening.
This guy voted for Biden. And now these guys,
he's a leftist.
They're like
Taibbi's a leftist.
They will eat their own. They don't care. If you don't serve their purpose anymore, they will eat you.
There, you're right. All right, what's the next one for you? One of them.
Oh, this one is.
I think we got all out of order.
So this one is end long-term welfare. Welfare, to me, I believe that there's a need for welfare in certain situations, but I don't believe
there are people that can't take care of themselves.
I don't believe that a healthy individual should be eternally on welfare.
Correct.
I just don't think that that's fair, even to them. And I think that welfare becomes much like heroin, that once you get started on it, then it takes away all of your incentive to do anything additional that will better yourself. And it keeps you, you know, the story of like an elephant, how they train these circus elephants, and they put a chain on them and link that chain to the stake, and the elephant can't get away. As they get older, they don't need the chain anymore. They just put a string around them and put it on the stake. And the elephant is so conditioned that he thinks he can't get away, so he never tries to get away. Well, that's what's happening with the welfare system, is that people can't, they're trapped. It's a mental prison, and that's why you have people for generations and generations on this. My thing is, if we're going to spend that kind of money, and it's a lot of money, that we should use that money to, instead of giving a man a fish, teach him how to fish, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think that that's what is really what welfare is. And it's funny because welfare is in the Constitution. I don't know if you knew that or not. It's right in the preamble of the Constitution, and it says that it's meant for the welfare of the public. And so welfare meant something a little bit different.
I was going to say that.
It wasn't a check.
Right.
So I think we need to go back to that form of welfare.
Agreed.
Help, instead of trap people.
I think that would fall into that category that I had. My idea, I say it humbly, but about the education and healthcare system. Throw in welfare too, where it's privatized. Give the top 100 performing companies, a sliding scale. Whoever's doing the best, give them more. I kind of think of it like welfare. Like, we do incredible things with our nonprofits in this country.
There you go. That's where this belongs.
Exactly. And so you have private companies under a nonprofit status that have to work lean and mean, that are always really good people. I love working with nonprofits in my business. I mean, absolutely do. They're great people. This is
where the church comes in as well, and your religious establishments,
Blue Cross, United
Cross,
Way,
all these guys, right? Yeah. So that's where charity really belongs. And when charity is coming from the federal government, government, it's not really charity, because if you look at the definition of charity, it's coming from your heart. People
Right.
don't give their taxes out of, oh, let me help the poor by paying their taxes. That's not what's going on right there. This country is the biggest giving country of any country
Yes.
in all of world history.
Yes.
And so if you give it to the federal government to manage it, what are you going to get?
90% waste.
Absolutely, Barry.
Give it to a nonprofit,
There you go.
90% goes to the cause.
That's it. And of course we need to have this what do you call it? They need to have accountability too.
Oh, there's accountability again.
Yeah.
Checks and balances, always got to have the accountability.
That's what I was looking for. Checks and balances.
Yeah.
Right on. So that's my next one.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I got all over the place here. And I agree with you, and I don't see that on my list, which is amazing to me that I would have forgotten that one. But because I completely agree with you. My number 11 that went to my number 2 is no illegal immigration, but grease the wheels of legal immigration, because we need those good people. We do need good people. We don't need people that want to take advantage of the system. We need people that want to contribute. We need to make illegal immigration a top priority.
I agree. And thank God we're seeing some rumbling in the House of Representatives on that. Well, we had a change of the guard there, and this is their number one priority, is that border. So hopefully we'll see what happens. But it is a big area of vulnerability for this country, and it's destroying cities. My cousin is a part of the DEA. And she was here in Phoenix this past week and telling me about this. While she was there, they came in with this huge drug bust with just piles and piles and piles of these pills. And they're suspecting a lot of it was fentanyl. I mean, this is just destroying us. It's destroying
and there's
our
new
people.
Drug that's worse than fentanyl.
I haven't heard of it.
Oh, yeah, there is one. That's all I know about it. I should not have brought it up because I don't know what I'm talking about. What else you got? I got a couple other things.
The next one is no more pharma commercials. It's funny, but at the same time,
75% of all commercials
in our lifetime, Barry, pharma commercials were not legal, and so they're
only legal in the world in the United States and New Zealand. That's it.
And this didn't happen until the mid 90s. Now, I remember when pharma commercials started coming out that I didn't think it was a big deal, but I thought they were weird with all the side effects. And that speeded up language. If you take so-and-so, this could happen. And you're like, oh my God. Anyway, as a result, what we've seen, Barry, is that everything's brought to you by Pfizer now.
Oh yeah.
So Pfizer controls what the news media is actually saying to you. And if you look
when
back
did we see
happened,
that blow back in our face?
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, and look at the billions and billions and billions of dollars each one of these people made, and all the yachts and all that kind of stuff. Eliminate pharma commercials, and I think America will be a much healthier place.
My totally related one was number 10, dismantle the FDA and Big Pharma.
There you go.
It kind of almost goes hand in hand with the monopoly.
It does. Well, and I was saying eliminate the bureaucracies. FDA, FDA is the number one on my list.
And that goes right to the health of this country and the obesity problem that we have. I mean, everything. And they work.
They're killing
in cahoots with the corruption with the Big Pharma. Big Pharma has, let's make no mistake, they've done wonders. The United States pharmaceutical industry has done wonders for the healthcare industry. So let's not let that go unrecognized. The rest of the world counts on that, our innovation in Big Pharma, but it needs broken up and back to competition and needs some ethics thrown in there. Somehow, I don't know the legalities that go on there, but let's face it, when you take something like what are some of the most egregious things, like is it the EpiPens that are costing like $200-300?
Oh yeah, it's
like a
even more
$2
than that.
EpiPen?
Yeah, it's amazing. You're
These
right.
kind of things. It's disgusting.
It's terrible what they've done. They've really
Right.
done us a disservice. So moving on, China can no longer buy agriculture, land, or real estate here in the United States. If they call themselves, if they call us their enemy, which is Xi Jinping just made that statement a couple of months ago, then you can't buy up all of our food supply here and
Right.
starve us to death. And you can't buy up all of our real estate. I found out that in Los Angeles, the Chinese Communist Party is buying up about 20% of the real estate there, which is driving up the
Wow.
prices. So when I was trying to buy a house, I may have been competing not against another person that works for a living, but against an entire country, which who could compete against these. I mean, I would see houses where it was like $750,000, which is outrageous, right?
Yes.
And then I was like, okay, I want to buy that house, and then somebody bids $850,000 for it, $100,000 more, sometimes even more. Who has that kind of money?
Right.
The Chinese Communist Party.
I would go as far as to say that no one but an American citizen should be able to purchase it.
I think so too, and we should be taking that very, very seriously. We've seen in one situation where a tract of land was being bought for 3 times the market value, and when we looked into it, we found out that it was a Chinese company, and the reason that they were paying 3 times more is it was right down the road from an Air Force base, and they wanted to be able to surveil it.
Oh my God.
This is the kind of stuff that's happening right
now.
And they consider us their enemy, and they're doing this kind of stuff, and we can't let them do this. And by the way, the House Committee on China Competition is talking about just that right now.
Yeah, no.
Did you ever hear about Smithfield pork? They provide bacon and all this stuff. They provide 25% of the United States pork here in this country. They're from Smithfield, Virginia.
I've not heard of this.
Okay. Back in 2013, a Chinese company bought Smithfield. And then,
really?
Okay, so here's the deal: is Chinese companies are all run by the CCP. They have, in fact, Chinese companies have to be a part of their national security and provide any information to the CCP, all this kind of stuff. So now the CCP owns 25% of our pork production here in the United States. It's such a crazy thing how they can own this, and that means they could shut it off, shut it down, they could taint it, they could do whatever they want with it. Anyway, this is a danger, and I think this is another area to improve America.
No, I totally agree. How about this one? And this one I think a lot of people will agree with. Take all money out of politics. No corporate backing, no super PACs, everyone running for office. This is one place where I say, yes, let's put our tax dollars. Everyone running for an office gets qualified and then gets the same amount of money. Okay.
That's interesting. You brought that up before, and the more you talk about it, the more it seems to make sense, because I mean, these people are just buying their way into the presidency.
And then their votes are bought.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. And you take a look at like the epidemic of these DAs across the country that George Soros bought.
Yes.
And how each one of those cities is a cesspool of crime, and
that man's got a lot of blood on his hands.
He really does. He really does.
So does his mayors that he helps get along.
Yeah.
And there's no accountability. Back to accountability.
That's right. Actually, Barry, that ban TikTok. That's another one.
Save America, ban TikTok.
Yeah, I think because they're a terrible, terrible threat. And I followed those hearings, and it was just like the Cheshire Cat smiling like he's just about to eat you, you know. I think you're nice, you know. And it's what it seemed like to me. It was sort of an ominous thing, and I think the handwriting's on the wall. These guys are the CCP. I mean, that's what they are, and they're coming to get us.
Yeah, it is. How about this one, Merle? grease the wheels for other political party options.
I like that. This
I think that's a
thing
big
that
one.
we have right now. I heard this recently that 25% of the population is hardcore Democrats. They'll never vote for anybody but Democrats. 25% Republicans never vote for anybody
Right.
but Republicans. And then the rest of the 50%, pretty much hardcore independents that are like, what the hell is happening with our country?
And I heard that more people are declaring themselves as independents than ever before in history.
I feel like, I mean, I'm a Republican, but I'm completely embarrassed by the Republican Party.
I'm embarrassed
And
by both.
I'm a conservative, but I think I fit more into the independents now more than anything else. And I want my vote to be able to count. And
Right.
to your point, that means we need to establish. I mean, is there an independent party that could run? I don't know. I mean, but this whole Democrat Republican thing is a sham. It's a sham.
It's a sham. Tulsi Gabbard spoke to that.
Love her.
Me too. I can't remember exactly how she put things, but she said after that Ross Perot fiasco that scared the bejesus out of everybody on both sides, that our politicians changed laws so it made it virtually impossible for there to be a third party. So because people were asking her, okay, you left the Democratic Party, will you run as an independent? She said it's impossible, and she explained why. She said right. I could do more good just on my own here with my podcast and stuff. So that needs to be addressed. And someone else said, I don't remember who said this. God, I have to always say that, but I listen to so many different podcasts. But someone else said, yes, there definitely should be independent parties, but if you're going to have one more, you need four, a total of four parties, because of the whole thing where everybody says as soon as there's an independent party, don't vote independent, you're going to steal votes away from our candidate.
Well,
so you need a fourth.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yet another
actually.
Party.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be thought about there.
I think so too. And I mean, gosh, after we've seen over the last 20 years, the 20-year train wreck we've seen.
God, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I go back to 9/11. It seems like everything came to an inflection point at that particular point, and we've never been able to recover from that.
You're right. Yeah. What went off the rails there? Was it just the government being able to snag power because
I think that was
the state of emergency?
Yeah, I think it was, never let a good crisis go to waste. Right. Yeah. And the globalists, that's when they really struck in and started to make big time headway. And America started to ebb away and become absorbed into this world government kind of thing. And, I mean, us going over as the world police into Iraq and Afghanistan and everything.
Made a mess of things there.
Yeah, I mean, we made it. We everything changed as a result. It's almost right after World War II, there was like a new realm we were in. And then after 9/11, another kind of tectonic shift happened. Yep. Right. Exactly. And
you're right.
And I think that Corona was an extension of that whole thing. And we're seeing now, that we believe that it was a lab leak out of Wuhan, and that
it's almost accepted now.
It's weaponized. Right. I know. Before, if we said this on the air, they would
correct. Now, is anyone being held accountable for a worldwide disaster?
This is so crazy, right? No.
And who's at the top of that? There's one man at the very top of that. And well, I shouldn't say one. You could say there's some presidents implicated. There's a lot of, but it's Fauci, man. Why isn't he, do I want to say disbarred? I don't know what you call it, but he retired. I mean, so there's
he got out of there,
but not held accountable whatsoever.
Not at all. And you're exactly right. I think he is guilty of high crimes. I mean, seriously, but
I don't think it was intentional, but the cover up was there.
You read Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book and all the evidence that he puts together.
So he's running now.
I think you would change your last statement about Fauci.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He seems to have known exactly what he was doing. And I think someone's pulling his strings as well as he take a look at this world government that's happening. I mean, you've got the UN, the WHO, you've got the WEF, the World Bank, all of these. That's world government, man. That's what everything. This is what George H.W. Bush was talking about: 1,000 points of light and new world order. That's exactly what this is. We're
Yeah.
living it now.
Yeah.
And then that family was a big part of it that told us they were Republicans.
Right.
We've had the rug pulled out right from under us.
Totally agree.
And these things we've talked about were excellent. And if we were able to implement these things, there would be immediate change, starting with the very first one we talked about.
Got to start with talk about them. You just got to start with talking about them.
You're
Get
right
them out
about
there.
that, Barry.
How about this one? Make it unconstitutional for the government to issue taxpayer money to private citizens.
Man, that is beautiful, because we've seen the repercussions of this whole
on
thing.
many levels.
It's been
including welfare,
devastating.
Getting back to privatizing welfare, put that back in a nonprofit status, and government issuing tax money. You told us about, it was around 1920, 22, 28, somewhere in there, that the government repealed or made an amendment to the Constitution that made it able for the government to actually issue people money. And when people smell that the government's going to tell them that they're going to give them money, that's when everything goes off the rails.
Yeah, this was actually one of the founding fathers actually talked about the fact that when the people figure out that they can actually vote themselves money from the public coffers, you're at the end of that government. And that's exactly what's happened. We've seen how it's happening now. I'm reading this book by Milton Friedman, an economist, and he talks about how whenever the government comes in and puts their finger on the scale like that, then the repercussions are always very serious, where we end up going into a recession or even a depression. And we see every time the Federal Reserve, which by the way isn't even a part of our government, which actually needs to be eliminated along with the IRS, which there will be no need for the federal government Federal Reserve when we eliminate the IRS. But anyway, these every time they mess around with those interest rates, we end up in a recession. And that's exactly where we're heading with this one now. We're in it. I mean, this is what's happened. And they're still even talking about making the interest rate higher. Why are they doing this? It's because they printed all that money and gave it out to those people. Like
it was inevitable. So what they have to do is raise the interest rate. So if you borrow $1, they get $1.25 back, so to speak, and they burn the money. They take it out of the economy to burn it and get.
This is crazy, man.
It was like in the 70s, mid 70s or something. And I probably will say this wrong, but is it the Keynesian economic system was replaced by whatever this manipulation is that we do today?
So I'm not sure. I've heard that term,
but
before,
it was
but
like
if
you
standard
gave somebody a pound of gold. You got $10 and that equaled the same amount.
Yeah, that was it. Right.
Yeah.
We went away from the gold and silver standard back in the 60s and 70s. And now our money is really only backed by trust. And so now it makes us so much more vulnerable to inflation. Because you can just print money. If it was all backed by gold and silver, you couldn't just print money before.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now they can do that, and it's
now we got a manipulative mess.
Effect. And now it's like all of our indicators that we could use to judge whether our economy was healthy or not have been corrupted. Even like when we hear our president bragging about the unemployment rate being so great. Well, now you've actually adjusted those statistics and redefined what unemployment actually is, so that you can, because all these people dropped out of the workforce as a result of the devastating economy, but you're not taking that into account when you're talking about the unemployment rate. You've rigged it so it looks like it's something that it's not, and that's the danger that we're in right now, is that it's like we're flying in a plane on instruments, but our instruments are corrupted and we're flying right towards a mountain. I mean, that's really what's happening.
I totally agree. I covered all of mine.
I covered all of mine. These were
Oh,
excellent, Barry.
yeah,
What
that
a
was
great
fun.
discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, people need to listen to us because we just solved America.
Now it needs to be implemented. That's
I
the thing.
agree. Well, hey, one thing that I saw in the news, I mean, we're gonna have to wrap up pretty soon, but
Yeah.
along these same lines is that there's an executive order that's about to come out that is about Freddie Mae and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Basically, people with high credit scores are going to be penalized about a percentage in home buying, and then that percentage is going to go to high risk
There's our
people.
social, what do you call that?
Social
Social
credit
credit
score.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right, right.
exactly. And I think about that, Barry, because when I got divorced back in the 90s, my credit score was, I mean, just abysmal. I mean, and that happens to a lot of people when they
Mhm.
go through a divorce, but I spent the next 20 years building up my credit. I have excellent credit now, but it took blood, sweat, and tears to make
Yeah,
that happen. And I'm serious about that.
yeah.
That was a lot of work. And now to find out that somebody that didn't work for that is going to actually take some of my credit that I earned. I mean, they're destroying the merit system. And
Yes.
that's what the real problem is.
Throughout
People
America,
that earn,
throughout the careers, yeah.
if
Mhm.
you earn something, you should be able to keep it and not have it commandeered by the government and
Mhm.
given to somebody else that doesn't deserve it. I think that's immoral.
Well, that's the whole DEI
That
program right
is,
there.
and I have a lot to say about that because
And that's a whole other.
I learned about the ESG we talked about a couple of days
Yeah,
ago, but
just briefly, what is
DEI
that?
is a ESG is environment,
Social.
social, and governance.
Yeah.
And this is what these hedge funds are inflicting on our businesses right now. And a big part of ESG is the S part, which
Yeah.
underneath of the S part is DEI,
Which is
diversity,
diversity,
equity,
equity,
and
and inclusion.
inclusion,
Yeah.
right? And they are just,
Blah.
it is terrible, man, what they're
Yeah.
inflicting on us with this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, there are what's happened is they've been able to turn these companies like Budweiser into
Ha.
social broadcasting companies, and
Right.
with this whole thing with Devin Mulvaney, uh, it's ruined Budweiser's finances. What last I checked, they were
Six
down.
billion, I think.
God, I
I
mean,
think.
and this
Now,
is just
and
to
this
make
is
a social
amazing.
comment.
I want to I want to ask you a couple things about that because you understand this but much better than I do. But about 3 years ago, Gillette, the manufacturer of razors, did this whole toxic masculinity promotion. And you could look that up on YouTube. It's abhorrent. And just about how horrible men are in general. And the same thing happened. They lost billions of dollars. And so I want to ask you again, could you explain to me how these, to the root of the matter, how these big companies are being pressured to do this social experiment kind of a thing?
Yeah,
In other
yeah.
words, shoot them in the foot of their own target audience. Please
Well,
explain
here's the
how
deal.
they're
If you
pressured.
Yeah, so here's a sort of an experiment that you can do is you can go on to Yahoo Finance and look up these companies and then look at how much of the company is owned by investors. And when you go to that page of Yahoo Finance, you'll find out that these hedge funds, like we've talked about them already,
Back to BlackRock,
State
Vanguard,
Street.
State Street. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Mhm.
They typically own up to 80-90% of any of our publicly traded companies that are out
Mm.
there. So they have a commanding control over these companies. And if they don't do what they want them to do, they will extract funds, or they have a leverage over the board. They can fire board members. They can even fire the CEO, have the CEO removed. So
Wow.
they've implemented this ESG. This is all coming from the WEF, by the way, World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
So they're, and by the way, the owners, the people that hide their money, these big multi-billionaires, and there are trillionaires out there, they all hide their money in these hedge funds for taxation purposes. And then what they're doing is they're controlling all of these businesses. They own about nearly 100% of the businesses throughout the whole world. So they are very, very, very powerful. And that's why I'm saying this is fascism that's happening right now. And so what they're doing with that control is they're implementing ESG, which ultimately divides us and destroys these companies anyhow. The ESG now is something they have to do because they're under these pressures. Let me just read this to you about Budweiser. The company also promoted their DEI rating with the Bloomberg Gender Equality Index. While the GEI, Gender Equality Index, is focused solely on internal policies of a company, the Corporate Equality Index put out by the Human Rights Campaign is 40% based on outward-facing policies, and a company can face an additional 25% penalty for actions which do not support the LGBTQ cause. It is not unreasonable to assume that Anheuser-Busch is trying to increase their the CEI, that's their CEI. Oh, I'm sorry. That's their corporate equality index. They're trying to increase their CEI
equity,
score.
not equality.
Yeah,
Equity.
they're trying to increase their CEI score for a better ESG rating. It's actually called Corporate Equality Index. That's from the Human Rights Campaign. Now, here's the deal, Barry, is that the Human Rights Campaign puts this equality index out, Corporate Equality Index, which the hedge funds look at that score that they're getting from these different sources to give them their ESG score. And that ESG score is how, this company's in good standards with us, or they're not in good standards with us. And this is the social credit score for businesses.
Wow,
okay?
there you go. You just hit it on the head.
So this is what's happening, and this is why when we went into COVID, all these companies started acting all crazy about strict requirements about taking the vaccination when it was still an experimental use authorization drug. It's because the hedge funds had put pressure on these companies and said, if you don't do this, we're going to fire the board, we're going to fire the CEO. And they have complete iron-fisted control over all of our companies now.
Wow, that's heavy. That's really heavy. And guys, those of you listening, I know that that's heavy. I know that it even sounds like conspiracy theory, I'm sure. But if you really follow it, it makes all the sense. It's the only way any of this makes sense.
And I just read you the facts here is that's what's going on behind the scenes that very few people know is happening.
Right. So a company's willing to shoot itself in the foot in a massive kind of a way in order to, because there's a much bigger entity on the world stage, the World Economic Forum, I suppose, is where it finally all the way.
And by the way, I got that information from Forbes. Yeah, and I just,
did you say Forbes?
Yeah, from Forbes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
they were
you
reporting
skipped a little bit right there.
Yeah, we had a weird thing happen there, but
that's the first time during this podcast,
yeah.
so I'm really happy about that.
me too.
So but even Budweiser, it's kind of funny. Like, try to make sense of it any other way than what Merle just laid out there, because you're going to tell me that this international company, as Anheuser-Busch, put the entire fate of the company into a 39-year-old woman's hands for this crazy international ad campaign that in turn lost them, I think it's $6 billion today.
Yeah, a whole boat.
Try to make sense of that any other way.
You can't.
It doesn't make any sense.
And so the whole fact is that from Budweiser's point of view, they actually made profit because of how these hedge funds take care of them. So they're not operating on the market system anymore. That's really what's happened. That's how we are looking at these companies and saying, well, New York Times, you lost 90% of your subscribers. How are you still in business? CNN, how are you still in business when you lose all of your viewers?
Right.
And this is what's going on behind the scenes, Barry. It's not about the market system anymore. The market system has been corrupted. Adam Smith's idea of the marketplace and how it works has been commandeered by these people.
Yeah, I totally follow you. I think it's time we lighten this up a little bit, though. That was really heavy.
This is good stuff, though, man. It's important information for people to have.
Right. I want to show you something that I found this morning that I thought was super cute. Let me find it here. Here we go. And this is two dogs doing FaceTime. Look at this.
Look at his face. No, I listen to him.
They're FaceTiming on a computer. They can see each other. Okay, now here's the other one from the other one's point of view, from the other side of the camera.
Okay, I got to see this.
Oh, come on. Why aren't you working?
Now it knows you're on the podcast.
Yeah.
That's too bad, but I see him over there. Oh, he's
so cute.
Oh, he's just pining away for that other
Looks like
dog.
a husky mix.
Yeah,
I love huskies.
I do too, except for all that fur everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
I like other people's huskies.
That's true. I think that I have lost many hours watching YouTube videos of huskies with babies. They go together like, oh my God, they just love babies. And they're so funny together. And if a baby starts crying, it'll start howling. Oh, dude, it's the best. It's the best. There was something else I was going to tell you about this, and it totally slipped my mind, but it was funny. I don't know, man. All right, so let's wind up. Do you have anything cool going on this weekend?
I'm gonna the thing Anne Marie and I have been doing here is we've been riding our bicycles out to Starbucks. That's about 6.5 miles away through this wonderful trail that we go on. We did that last Saturday and Sunday morning, and 2 weeks ago we did it the other both days, and I definitely want to do that again. Good. I'm looking forward to it. It's so fun.
Nice.
Yeah, how about you?
Oh, I don't know particularly, but I know that this afternoon, Lisa is sending me out to Independence to get something. But when I hear Independence,
you like it out there.
I do. And one of the big reasons why is they have a really good Mexican restaurant out there. What's it called? It maybe Compadre Cozumel. It's Cozumel. And it's really good. So I'm doing a happy hour by myself at Cozumel and Independence. I know that.
Nice.
Yeah. So other than that,
enjoy that, man. That sounds great.
All right, buddy.
All right, Barry. Great show, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time that you put into that. It was a great discussion.
It really was.
I really had a lot of fun with it.
Me too, Barry. All right, brother.
Love you, buddy. All right,
love you too, man.